The stars were cold and distant as Commander Vexthai stared at the main screen of his ship. The silent whisper moved through space like a ghost invisible to most sensors. For 3 years, Vexthai had been watching the small blue planet called Earth from afar. The creatures living there were young and primitive. They had only recently learned to fly between their own planets. "Commander," called his science officer, Kethra. Her voice was excited. "We have found something interesting." Vexthai turned his long neck toward her station. His purple skin glowed softly in the dim light of the bridge. Like all Zelkari, he was tall and thin, with 4 arms and large black eyes. "What have you discovered?" "A human ship, sir. It is alone near the large gas planet they call Jupiter. The vessel appears to be on a simple patrol mission." Vexthai moved closer to examine the readings. On the screen, he could see a crude metal ship floating in the darkness. It was much smaller than his own vessel and looked rough compared to Zelkari technology. The humans had built it from simple steel and other basic metals. Its engines were clearly primitive fusion reactors that wasted most of their energy. "How many crew members?" Vexthai asked. "Our sensors show approximately 200 beings aboard, sir. All appear to be human." Vexthai nodded slowly. For 47 years, the Zelkari Confederation had been watching Earth. They had learned the human language and studied their culture. The humans were violent creatures who fought wars among themselves. They had only achieved spaceflight 50 years ago and had barely explored their own solar system. The Confederation's rules were clear. They should not make contact with primitive species until those species could travel between stars. But this human ship presented a perfect chance to learn more about Earth's military capabilities. If humans ever became a threat, the Confederation needed to understand their weapons and technology. "Take us closer," Vexthai ordered, "but maintain stealth mode. I want to study this vessel without being detected." The silent whisper moved forward silently. Its advanced stealth systems made it invisible to human sensors. The ship's quantum field generators bent light around the hull, while its engines produced no heat signature. To any human detector, there was nothing in the empty space around them. As they approached, Vexthai could see more details of the human ship. It was called the Indomitable according to the markings on its hull. The vessel was about 800 meters long and looked like it was built for war. Strange antenna arrays stuck out from various points, and he could see what looked like weapon ports along its sides. "The humans seemed to favor kinetic weapons," Kethra reported. "Our scans show multiple railgun systems and missile launchers. Their technology is approximately 300 years behind our own." Vexthai studied the readings with interest. The human ship's weapons were indeed primitive. They used metal projectiles fired at high speed and simple explosive missiles. Nothing that could threaten a Zelkari vessel with its energy shields and plasma cannons. "What about their defensive systems?" he asked. "Basic electromagnetic shields and thick armor plating. Their hull appears to be a titanium alloy approximately 2 meters thick in most places." Vexthai was impressed despite himself. While the technology was primitive, the humans had built their ship to last. The thick armor would stop most kinetic weapons, and the electromagnetic shields could deflect some energy attacks. For such a young species, they showed good military thinking. "Sir," another officer called from the communications station, "we are receiving human radio transmissions. Should we listen?" "Yes, but do not respond. I want to know what they are doing out here." The bridge speakers crackled to life with human voices. Vexthai had learned their language years ago, so he could understand every word. "Navigation, this is the captain. Any sign of those energy readings we detected yesterday?" "Negative, sir. Sensors are clear. Whatever it was, it's gone now. Keep scanning. I don't like mysteries in my patrol zone." Vexthai felt a small chill. The humans had detected something yesterday. Could they have noticed the silent whisper? No, that was impossible. Zelkari stealth technology was far beyond human understanding. "Science officer," the human captain continued, "run another deep scan of the area. Focus on gravitational anomalies. Already on it, sir. If there's anything out there, we'll find it." Vexthai turned to his own science officer. "Kethra, are our stealth systems functioning properly?" "Yes, sir. All systems show green. We are completely invisible to their sensors." But Vexthai felt uneasy. The human captain sounded suspicious and alert, not like someone conducting a routine patrol. Perhaps Earth's military was more advanced than the Confederation believed. "Sir," Kethra called again, "I'm detecting some unusual readings from the human ship." "What kind of readings?" "Their power output is higher than expected. Much higher. And there are some strange energy patterns I cannot identify. Vexthai moved to look at the sensor display. The readings were indeed odd. The human ship was producing far more energy than its visible fusion reactors should be capable of generating. There were also energy signatures that did not match any known human technology. Perhaps they have made recent advances, Vexthai said. Young species sometimes develop quickly. Sir, there is something else. I am detecting quantum entanglement patterns in their computer systems. Vexthai stared at her. Quantum entanglement computing was advanced technology that the Confederation had only mastered 50 years ago. Humans should not possess such capabilities for centuries. Are you certain? Yes, sir. Their computers are using quantum encryption methods I have never seen before. A warning alarm suddenly filled the bridge. The tactical officer turned toward Vexthai with fear in his large black eyes. Commander, the human ship is charging weapons. On the main screen, the Indomitable had turned to face them directly. Lights were appearing along its hull as various systems came online. The ship no longer looked crude and primitive. It looked dangerous. How can they see us? Vexthai demanded. I do not know, sir. Our stealth systems are still functioning. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We are receiving a transmission from the human ship. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect Zelkari language. Unknown vessel, you have been observing us for 12 hours. Identify yourself immediately or we will consider you hostile. Silence fell over the bridge. The humans not only knew they were there, but they spoke Zelkari. This was impossible. First contact protocols had never been violated. No human should know their language or even know that the Confederation existed. Sir, Kethra whispered. The human ship is powering up systems I cannot identify. Energy levels are increasing beyond anything in our database. Vexthai stared at the screen as the human ship continued to turn toward them. Whatever the Indomitable really was, it was not the primitive vessel they had thought. The hunters had somehow become the hunted. And Vexthai was beginning to understand that the Confederation might have made a terrible mistake about Earth and its people. The human voice spoke again, and this time there was no mistaking the threat in its tone. You have 30 seconds to respond before we take defensive action. Vexthai realized that his simple observation mission had just become something much more dangerous. The 30 seconds felt like hours to Commander Vexthai. His crew looked at him with fear in their eyes, waiting for orders. The human ship Indomitable hung in space before them, no longer appearing primitive or harmless. Energy readings from the vessel were climbing to levels that should not be possible. Science Officer Kethra, Vexthai said, his voice steady despite his racing thoughts. Run a complete scan of that ship. I want to know everything about it. Yes, sir. Kethra's 4 hands moved quickly over her control panel. Beginning deep quantum scan now. The Silent Whisper's most advanced sensors focused on the human vessel. These scanners could map every atom of a target and analyze its composition without being detected. The Confederation had used this technology to study dozens of primitive species without them ever knowing. But as the scan progressed, Kethra's face grew more confused and frightened. Sir, this is impossible, she whispered. Report, Vexthai ordered. The hull is not simple metal as we thought. It is composed of titanium-carbon nanotube composite materials. The molecular structure is incredibly advanced. We have never seen anything like it. Vexthai felt his stomach drop. Nanotube composites were theoretical technology even for the Confederation. Their own scientists had been working on such materials for decades without success. What about their weapons? He asked. Sir, the weapon systems are not what they appear to be. What looked like simple railguns are actually particle beam cannons disguised to look primitive. The missile launchers appear to contain antimatter warheads. Antimatter, Vexthai nearly shouted. Humans do not have antimatter technology. According to these readings, they do, sir. And their reactor systems are not fusion at all. They appear to be matter-antimatter hybrid engines with power output levels exceeding our own. Vexthai stared at the readings in disbelief. The ship before them was not just advanced. It was beyond anything in the Confederation database. How had humans achieved such technology in secret? Sir, the communications officer interrupted. The humans are transmitting again. Put it through. The same calm human voice filled the bridge. Zelkari vessel Silent Whisper, registration number ZC4471. You are in violation of Terran space. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Complete silence fell over the bridge. The human knew their ship's name and registration number, information that should be impossible for them to obtain. How do they know our ship designation? Vexthai demanded. Sir, Kethra said, her voice shaking, I am detecting massive computer intrusion attempts. Something is trying to access our databases. Activate all firewalls and security protocols. I have, sir, but the intrusion software is unlike anything I have seen. It is adapting to our defenses faster than we can implement them. On the main screen, the human ship was changing. Parts of its hull were moving, revealing hidden weapon ports and sensor arrays. The crude appearance was falling away like a mask, showing the true nature of the vessel beneath. Sir, the tactical officer called out, the human ship is launching small craft. Vexthai watched as sleek fighters emerged from hidden bays in the Indomitable's hull. These were not the primitive spacecraft Earth was supposed to possess. They moved with impossible grace and speed, their hulls seeming to bend light around them. They have cloaking technology, the tactical officer said in amazement. That is impossible, Vexthai replied, but even as he said it, he knew they were witnessing something that changed everything the Confederation thought they knew about humans. Sir, Kethra interrupted, I am reading life signs aboard the human ship. But they are not all human. What do you mean? There are Zelkari life signs aboard that vessel. At least 20 of them, and I am detecting other species as well. Krillian, Vorthan, and several I cannot identify. Vexthai felt the world spinning around him. Zelkari aboard a human ship? How was this possible? The Confederation had never made official contact with Earth. No Zelkari should even be in this system. Could they be prisoners? He asked. No, sir. The bio-readings suggest they are working alongside the humans. Their stress levels and brain activity patterns indicate cooperation, not captivity. The human voice spoke again, and this time it was different. Instead of speaking in Zelkari, it spoke in the musical tones of the Krillian language. Zelkari vessel, this is your final warning. Power down your engines and surrender, or we will disable your ship. Sir, the communications officer said with wonder. That was a Krillian speaking. A real Krillian. I am certain of it. Vexthai's mind raced. The Krillian Empire had been destroyed by the Confederation 50 years ago. Their people had been scattered across the galaxy as refugees. How could Krillians be aboard a human ship? Science officer, he said. What is the true size of that vessel? Kethra studied her readings carefully. Sir, the internal volume does not match the external dimensions. The ship appears to be using spatial compression technology. The interior is at least 3 times larger than the outside suggests. Spatial compression, Vexthai repeated numbly. Such technology was considered impossible by Confederation scientists. The energy requirements alone should collapse any ship attempting to use it. Sir, the tactical officer reported, the human fighters are surrounding us. They are maintaining a respectful distance, but their weapons are charged and ready. Vexthai looked at the screen showing the small craft around his ship. Each fighter was a work of art, its hull flowing like liquid metal. They moved without visible engines, and their weapon systems defied identification. Try to contact Confederation Command, he ordered. Sir, all long-range communications are being blocked. Some kind of jamming field is preventing any transmissions beyond local space. Vexthai realized they were completely cut off. Whatever happened here, Command would not know about it for days or weeks. Sir, Kethra said quietly, there is something else. I am detecting massive energy signatures throughout this solar system. There are dozens of ships hidden near the planets and moons, all human vessels, all using the same advanced technology. How many ships? At least 40 that I can detect, sir. But the stealth technology is so advanced that there could be many more. Vexthai felt fear creeping through his body. The Confederation had been watching Earth for decades, believing it to be a primitive world with a handful of crude spacecraft. Instead, they had discovered a civilization with technology that surpassed their own, and a fleet that could challenge the entire Confederation. Sir, the communications officer said, the humans are transmitting again, this time on a private channel. Encryption level 10. Encryption level 10 was the highest security rating the Confederation used. Only command staff had access to such codes. How do they have our encryption keys? Vexthai asked, but he was no longer surprised by impossibilities. Unknown, sir. Should I accept the transmission? Vexthai nodded. At this point, he needed to understand what they were facing. A new voice came through the speakers. It was speaking perfect Zelkari but with a human accent. Commander Vexthai, my name is Captain Maria Santos of the United Earthship Indomitable. I believe we need to talk. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the alien vessel on her main screen. She had been expecting this encounter for weeks. Earth's early warning system had detected the Zelkari ship the moment it entered the solar system, just as it had detected dozens of other alien visitors over the past 4 decades. Captain, her tactical officer called. Lieutenant Commander Zektar was himself a Zelkari, though he had left his people 5 years ago to join Earth's fleet. The alien vessel is maintaining position. No signs of weapons charging or attempt to flee. Good, Santos replied. They are smart enough to recognize a hopeless situation when they see one. Santos was a woman in her 40s, with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many battles. She had been commanding human ships for 15 years, ever since first contact with the Krillian refugees. Unlike the official first contact protocols of most galactic civilizations, Earth had chosen a different path when aliens began visiting their system. Communications, she said. Open a channel to the Zelkari ship. Full encryption. Channel open, Captain. Santos spoke clearly into her microphone. Commander Vexthai, my name is Captain Maria Santos of the United Earthship Indomitable. I believe we need to talk. She waited for a response, knowing the alien commander was probably in shock. Most species reacted this way when they discovered that humanity was not the primitive civilization they appeared to be. Chief Engineer, Santos called to another station. What is the status of our cloaking systems? The chief engineer was a tall, insect-like creature called a Vorthon. His name was Kliktar, and he had been with Earth's fleet since the early days. All systems functioning perfectly, Captain. The Zelkari cannot detect our true capabilities while we maintain the deception field. Santos nodded. The deception field was one of humanity's greatest achievements. It projected false sensor readings that made human ships appear primitive while hiding their true technology. The field had allowed Earth to study visiting alien races for decades without them knowing humanity's real strength. Captain, Zektar said, the Zelkari ship is responding. Commander Vexthai's voice came through the speakers, speaking in his own language. Captain Santos, how do you know my name? How do you speak Zelkari? This contact violates all Confederation protocols. Santos smiled. The alien commander was trying to maintain some authority, but she could hear the fear in his voice. Commander, Earth has been monitoring Confederation activities for 47 years. We know about your observation posts, your fleet movements, and your plans for our solar system. We also know you are not the only ones watching us. This was the truth that few aliens understood. Earth had been contacted by 17 different alien civilizations over the past 5 decades. Rather than revealing themselves or begging for advanced technology, humans had chosen to study each visitor carefully. They learned languages, copied technologies, and built relationships with refugees and defectors from various alien empires. That is impossible, Vexthai replied. The Confederation has never made official contact with Earth. Official contact, no, Santos agreed. But you have had research stations observing us from the outer planets for decades. You have also had several ships crash or malfunction in our system. We have been very helpful in rescuing survivors and treating injured crew members. Santos did not mention that these rescued aliens had been offered a choice. Return to their people with no memory of advanced human technology, or stay and help Earth prepare for the day when contact could no longer be avoided. Many had chosen to stay. Science Officer Dr. Iran, Santos called to another station. Dr. Iran was a former Zelkari scientist who had joined Earth after her research ship suffered engine failure near Mars 3 years ago. Show Commander Vexthai what we have learned from his people. Yes, Captain. Dr. Iran's voice was sad as she spoke in Zelkari to her former commander. Vexthai, this is Dr. Iran Keshma, formerly of the science vessel Deep Seeker. I am alive and well, and I have found something here that you need to understand. There was a long silence before Vexthai responded. Iran, we thought you were dead. Your ship disappeared near the 4th planet. My ship suffered critical engine failure. These humans rescued my crew and offered us medical treatment. When we recovered, they gave us a choice. We could return home with our memories adjusted, or we could stay and learn about their true civilization. Why would you stay with primitives? Dr. Iran's voice became excited. Because they are not primitives, Vexthai. Their technology surpasses ours in many ways. More importantly, Their approach to galactic civilization is completely different from anything we have known. Santos gestured to her tactical officer. Zektar, explain to the commander why you left the Confederation. Zektar stepped forward, speaking to his own people for the first time in years. Commander, I was a weapons officer aboard the battleship Righteous Victory. 3 years ago, our ship pursued human smugglers who were helping Krillian refugees escape Confederation space. I remember that mission, Vextai said quietly. The humans allowed us to board their ship without resistance. They claimed to be simple traders who had found the Krillians adrift in space. But while we searched their vessel, I accessed their computer systems. What I found changed everything I believed about our people and theirs. Zektar paused, remembering that day. The humans had detailed records of Confederation military operations going back 20 years. They knew about the Krillian genocide, the Vorthan enslavement, and dozens of other actions our government told us were necessary for galactic peace. But they also had something else. What? Vextai asked. They had evidence that another path was possible. On Earth, dozens of species live and work together freely. Not as conquerors and subjects, but as equals. When I saw Krillians and Vorthans and even other Zelkari working alongside humans to build something better, I knew I could not return to the Confederation. Santos watched the main screen as the alien ship hung motionless in space. She knew Commander Vexatai was struggling to understand what he was hearing. Captain Santos, Vexatai said finally, what do you want from us? The same thing we have offered every alien visitor to our system, Commander. Knowledge and choice. You came here to study us, believing we were a primitive species you could conquer or manipulate when the time was right. Instead, you have discovered that we have been studying you. Santos gestured to her crew. Everyone aboard this ship represents a species that has chosen cooperation over conquest. We have Zelkari like Dr. Irin and Zektar, who left your Confederation when they learned the truth about your government. We have Krillians who survived your attempted genocide. We have Vorthans who escaped your slave labor camps. And we have humans who believe that the galaxy can be better than it is. What are you saying? Vextai asked. I am saying that Earth is no longer a primitive world waiting to be absorbed into your empire, Commander. We are the center of a new kind of galactic alliance, one based on freedom and voluntary cooperation rather than conquest and control. Santos stepped closer to the screen. The question now is whether you and your crew want to be part of that future, or whether you prefer to return to the Confederation with news that will change everything. There was a long silence before Vextai spoke again. And if we choose to return, then you return with a message, Santos said simply. Tell your leaders that Earth is no longer alone, no longer defenseless, and no longer interested in being anyone's subject world. The next time the Confederation enters this system, it will not be as observers studying primitives. It will be as equals negotiating with peers, or as enemies facing a coalition that spans the galaxy. Santos looked around her bridge at the crew of many species working together. The choice, Commander, is yours. Commander Vexatai sat in his command chair, staring at the communication screen. His world had changed completely in the last hour. Everything the Confederation had taught him about humans and galactic civilization was wrong. The primitive species they had been observing was actually more advanced than his own people. Sir, Kethra whispered. What are your orders? Vextai looked around his bridge. His crew was frightened and confused. They had come to study primitives and instead found themselves outmatched by beings they had considered inferior. Science officer, he said slowly, show me the real scan results of their ship. Kethra activated the main display. The readings were incredible. The human vessel was not just advanced, it was beyond anything in Confederation records. Its power systems generated more energy than a Zelkari city. Its weapons could destroy a battlecruiser with a single shot. And its defenses seemed to bend the laws of physics. How did they achieve this level of technology so quickly? Vextai asked. Sir? Dr. Irin's voice came through the communication channel. May I answer that? Vextai nodded, though he was not sure he wanted to know. The humans did not develop this technology alone, Dr. Irin explained. For 50 years, they have been learning from every species that visited their system. When the Althurian Empire sent scouts 40 years ago, the humans studied their energy shield technology. When Krillian refugees arrived, they shared their knowledge of faster-than-light travel. When Vorthan slaves escaped to Earth, they brought their expertise in computer systems. That is impossible, Vextai said. Our intelligence reports show that Earth has had no official contact with alien civilizations. Official contact, no, Dr. Iron agreed. But Captain Santos spoke the truth. Over the decades, many ships have suffered accidents or mechanical failures in this system. The humans always offered rescue and aid. Most crews chose to return home with their memories adjusted. But some chose to stay. Captain Santos spoke again. Commander, your government has a policy of non-interference with primitive species. But that policy has a hidden purpose. You study worlds until they become useful, then you conquer them. Earth chose a different path. What path? Vexthai asked. We chose to learn from everyone while revealing ourselves to no one. Every alien visitor taught us something new. Every refugee brought knowledge and skills. Every defector showed us the flaws in galactic civilization. By the time we were ready to reveal ourselves, we had combined the best technologies and ideas from dozens of species. Vexthai felt a chill run through his body. You have been preparing for war? No, Commander, Santos replied. We have been preparing for peace. But we learned long ago that peace must be defended. When we studied Confederation records, we discovered your expansion plans. We know about the invasion fleets being assembled. We know about the resource surveys of our system. We know that your government planned to conquer Earth within the next decade. This was true, though Vexthai had not known the details. The Confederation had indeed been planning to claim the Sol system once human technology became useful enough to justify the effort. What changed your plans? He asked. We realized that your way of doing things would never create lasting peace, Santos said. Empires built on conquest always fall. Species held as subjects always rebel. The Confederation has been fighting wars for centuries because it refuses to consider any relationship except domination. And you believe you have found a better way? We know we have. Look around this ship, Commander. Selkari, humans, Krillians, Vorthans, and 12 other species working together as equals. No masters, no slaves, no conquered worlds. Just beings who chose to cooperate for mutual benefit. Vexthai studied the readings from the human ship more carefully. He could see life signs from multiple species throughout the vessel. The bioscans showed no signs of stress or fear that would indicate slavery or coercion. The aliens aboard the ship seemed to be there by choice. Sir, his communications officer interrupted. I am receiving additional transmissions from throughout the solar system. Put them through. New voices filled the bridge, speaking in different alien languages. Vexthai recognized Krillian, Vorthan, and several others. All were welcoming him to the Sol system and offering to share their stories of joining Earth's alliance. How many ships do you have? Vexthai asked Captain Santos. In this system? Currently 43 vessels of various sizes. But our alliance extends far beyond Earth, Commander. We have bases on 17 worlds, agreements with 32 independent systems, and defensive pacts with every major refugee population in the galaxy. Vexthai felt his understanding of galactic politics crumbling. If what the humans claimed was true, they had built a shadow coalition that spanned known space. All while the Confederation believed they were observing a primitive world. Why reveal yourselves now? He asked. Because hiding is no longer possible, Santos replied. Our alliance has grown too large to remain secret. More importantly, the Confederation's expansion plans have accelerated. Your government is planning major military operations against several independent worlds over the next year. We cannot allow that to continue. You would go to war with the Confederation? We would prefer not to, Santos said. But we will defend ourselves and our allies. The question is whether that defense needs to include military action against your fleets, or whether we can find a peaceful solution. Vexthai looked at his crew again. They were waiting for him to make a decision that would affect not just their lives, but the future of galactic civilization. What exactly are you offering us, Captain Santos? The same thing we offer everyone, Commander. Truth and choice. You can return to the Confederation with accurate information about what you have found here. Your government can choose to negotiate with us as equals, or they can continue their expansion plans and face the consequences. And if we choose to stay, then you join the thousands of beings from dozens of species who have found a new way to live among the stars. You help us build something better than the cycle of conquest and rebellion that has dominated the galaxy for millennia. Vexthai closed his eyes and thought about everything he had learned. The Confederation had lied to him about many things. They had told him that other species were inferior and needed Zelkari guidance. They had claimed that conquest was necessary for galactic peace. But here was evidence that cooperation could work better than control. Sir, Kethra said quietly, If what they claim is true, the Confederation's entire philosophy is wrong. I know, Vexthai replied. The question is whether we are brave enough to accept that truth and act on it. He opened his eyes and looked at the communication screen. Captain Santos was waiting patiently for his answer. Behind her, he could see crew members of multiple species working together in harmony. Captain Santos, he said finally, I need to see your ship for myself. I need to speak with the Zelkari who chose to join you. I need to understand how this alliance really works. Of course, Commander. You and your crew are welcome aboard the Indomitable, but I should warn you that once you see what we have built here, it will be very difficult to return to the old way of doing things. Vexthai looked around his bridge one last time. His crew was watching him with trust and fear. The decision he made now would change all their lives. Prepare a shuttle, he told his pilot. It is time to learn the truth about humanity and their allies. 2 hours later, Commander Vexthai walked through the corridors of the human ship Indomitable. Nothing could have prepared him for what he saw. The ship was not just larger inside than outside, it was a floating city. Gardens grew along the walls, providing fresh air and food. Living quarters were spacious and comfortable. And everywhere he looked, different species worked together without conflict. The spatial compression technology is still experimental, Captain Santos explained as she led the tour. We learned the basic principles from a Vorthan physicist, but it took combined knowledge from 6 different species to make it work safely. Vexthai watched a group of children playing in a recreation area. There were human children, but also young Krillians and Vorthans, and even 2 small Zelkari. They played together as if species differences meant nothing. Those Zelkari children, he said quietly. How did they come to be here? Their parents were crew members on a damaged ship we rescued 4 years ago, Santos replied. The family chose to stay when they learned what we were building. The children have grown up here, learning that cooperation is normal and conquest is not the only way civilizations can interact. Dr. Iran appeared beside them. She looked healthier and happier than Vexthai had ever seen her during their years serving together. Vexthai, there is something you must see. She led them to a large chamber filled with computer displays and star charts. Dozens of beings worked at various stations, monitoring communications and tracking ship movements throughout the galaxy. This is our intelligence center, Dr. Iran explained. We monitor Confederation activities, but we also track the movements of 17 other major powers. We have early warning systems for conflicts and refugee flows. We can predict where help will be needed before crises develop. Vexthai studied the displays with growing amazement. The information networks shown here were more comprehensive than anything Confederation intelligence possessed. How do you gather all this data? Refugee networks, Santos replied. When beings flee from various conflicts, they often carry valuable information. We help them find safety, and they help us understand what is happening across the galaxy. It is voluntary cooperation, not forced intelligence gathering. Sir, Kethra said softly. She had been silent during most of the tour, but now she looked confused and sad. This changes everything we believed about galactic civilization. I know, Vexthai replied. The question is what we do with this knowledge. Santos led them to another section of the ship, where former Confederation citizens worked alongside humans and other species. Vexthai recognized several faces from his own military academy. Officers he had known for years now wearing Earth Fleet uniforms. Commander Zektar told you why he left the Confederation, Santos said. But he is not alone. Over the past decade, hundreds of Zelkari military personnel have chosen to join us. They saw what we were building and decided it was worth more than their careers in the Confederation fleet. One of the former Zelkari officers approached them. Vexthai recognized her as Commander Selthara, who had supposedly died in a shuttle accident 2 years ago. Vexthai, she said with a sad smile, I know what you are thinking. We were taught that loyalty to the Confederation was the highest virtue. But true loyalty is to principles, not to governments that betray those principles. What principles? Vexthai asked. Justice, freedom, the idea that all beings deserve to choose their own path in life. The Confederation claims to support these things, but their actions prove otherwise. Here, these principles are not just words in government speeches. They are how we actually live. Santos gestured to the crew around them. This is what we offer the galaxy, Commander. Not another empire built on conquest, but a true alliance built on voluntary cooperation. Member species keep their independence and make their own choices. We share knowledge and resources freely. We defend each other against aggression, but we do not force anyone to join us. Vexthai felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. Everything he saw challenged his fundamental beliefs about how civilizations should work. But he could not deny the evidence before his eyes. These beings were happier and more prosperous than most citizens of the Confederation. "What about your military strength?" he asked. "How can voluntary cooperation compete with organized military power?" Santos smiled. "Let me show you something." She led them to the ship's command center, where tactical displays showed the positions of human ships throughout the solar system. But as Vexthai watched, more ships began appearing on the screen. They decloaked or emerged from hidden positions among asteroids and moons. 67 ships in this system alone, Santos said, each one crewed by volunteers from multiple species, each one equipped with the combined technologies of our alliance. But this is just our home defense fleet. The display changed to show a galaxy-wide view. Hundreds of symbols appeared marking human ships and allied forces across known space. "Our real strength is not in any single fleet, Commander. It is in the fact that we have friends everywhere. Refugee populations that we have helped, independent worlds that we have defended, former subjects of various empires who have found freedom through our alliance. You have been building a shadow empire," Vexthai said. "No," Santos replied firmly. "We have been building a network of free peoples who choose to work together. The difference is crucial. Empires rule through fear and force. We succeed through trust and mutual benefit." Dr. Irin stepped forward. "Vexthai, you have seen what the Confederation calls civilization. You have also seen what true cooperation can achieve. The choice now is whether you return to report what you have learned or whether you help us build something better." Vexthai looked around the command center. Every station was operated by beings from different species working in perfect coordination. No one was giving orders based on species superiority. Decisions were made through discussion and consensus. "What would happen if I returned to the Confederation?" he asked. "You would report that Earth is more dangerous than they believed," Santos said. "Your government would probably accelerate their military plans. There would be war, and many beings would die on both sides. And if I stayed, then you help us send a different message to your people. One that offers them a choice between war and peace, between conquest and cooperation." Vexthai thought about his crew aboard the Silent Whisper. They were good beings who had served the Confederation faithfully, believing they were working for galactic peace. But like him, they had never seen an alternative to the empire they served. "I need to speak with my crew," he said finally. "Of course, take all the time you need." 3 hours later, Vexthai stood in the shuttle bay of the Indomitable, watching his crew board shuttles for the return trip to their ship. But they were not returning as prisoners or as the same beings who had left. They were returning as people who had seen a different way to live among the stars. "Kethra," he said to his science officer, "prepare a message for Confederation Command. Tell them we have completed our reconnaissance of the Sol system." "What should the message say, sir?" Vexthai smiled. "Tell them that Earth is indeed more advanced than we believed. Tell them that humanity has allies we never suspected. And tell them that the Confederation has a choice to make." "What choice, sir?" "Whether they want to negotiate with Earth's alliance as equals, or whether they want to test their military strength against an enemy they do not understand." As the shuttles carried them back to the Silent Whisper, Vexthai thought about the future. The Confederation would not accept change easily. There would be those who preferred war to admitting they had been wrong about galactic civilization, but there would also be those like him, who had seen what cooperation could achieve and wanted to be part of building it. The galaxy was about to change. The question was whether that change would come through war or through the example of beings who had chosen to work together instead of fighting for dominance. As the Silent Whisper turned toward Confederation space carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic politics, Vexthai knew that the Age of Empires was ending. What would replace it was still being written by the choices of beings like Captain Santos and her crew of many species, working together among the stars. The humans had been right about one thing: peace was worth defending, and sometimes, the best way to defend it was to show others that there was a better way to live.